you like it, yeah.
What's up, and welcome back to the We Don't Know TV podcast. My name is Leaf. I am your host. This is the podcast where we watch the first episode of a show and talk about it. So as of me recording right now, October is right around the corner. So I'm like, let me just start watching, supernatural type, like genre-wise, supernatural like TV shows. And when I was younger, I watched the show Charmed, the original one, with my mom. And then I remember they made a new one. So I was like, you know what? Let me do the new one first. And then next week, I'll do the old one. So this week, if you haven't figured out by the title or me talking, we were talking about Charmed, 2018 version. And the IMDb, the synopsis for the first episode reads, after the tragic death of their mother, Mel and Maggie learn of a secret sibling, Macy, and discover they exhibit new abilities. All right. Now, if it is your first time here, I usually go beat by beat through the plot. That way, I don't miss anything. And if you didn't watch the episode, it's not like you're like, what's going on here? So yeah, we're gonna start at the very beginning. So Maggie is hiding in this hallway, and it starts off very scary. But it turns out she's just hiding from her sister Mel. She stole some of her clothes, and Mel's like, "Why are you even like hiding from me? Like, don't steal my clothes. You're gonna go do this sorority stuff, you know it's bad." And she's like, whatever, I'm gonna live my life. They hear their mom yelling on the phone about something. They go to check on her, and she gets all existential. She's like, oh, you guys are growing up so fast, like you should always be sisters and stick together, yada yada yada. And they're like, all right, mom, like chill out. And they're like, we're gonna get going now. So they leave and they go their separate ways. So Mel, the older sister, it looks like, immediately sends a text and is like, yo, get naked. So it's like, all right, she's gonna go bang somebody. Maggie is walking, and you see someone behind her, and then it turns out it's her ex, and he's like, I just wanted to make sure like you're alright, so you're gonna walk through the woods. And I'm like, yo, that's a major red flag right there. Like, why are you stalking your ex like that, like physically, like silently behind her? If anything, show up and be like, hey, or like text her or something, you know what I mean? Like, why are you stalking your ex? Like, we gotta let that man go. Goes back to the mom. She gets really cold. She opens up the window, a crow flies through, very scary. They get a message, or at least Mel does, and she's like, yo, mom's like, come home. We cut back to the mom. She's all off the bat doing magic. She's upstairs, she's casting some sort of spell, and through the window a bunch more crows just pop in. They're circling her. Things are looking bad. Crows don't look bad CG wise, and this smoke starts to slowly come through the window. And as she finishes her spell, the crows and the smoke fly away. Everything looks pretty cool. All right. Mel goes to get Maggie. And this is right off the bat where I'm like, oh, this show's probably not for me. So Mel is very feminist forward, very what people would now use woke as. You know, she's going in there and she's like, yo, Maggie, if you don't leave, I'm going to start talking to all these frat boys about like consent and like, just making sure you're doing the right thing with like women. And then she sees a couple making out, and she's like, you can change your mind at any time, to like the girl. And it's like, all right, you're kind of hand-fisting this this, I don't even know what to say. I'm just gonna say wokeness. You're hand-fisting this a little bit. But anyways, they leave, and they get home, and the house is like freezing cold. And they find out mom is dead. And we cut to the title in Made Out of Glass, where the window used to be. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. It's now 3 months later. We are introduced to the new sister, or who will be the new sister. Spoilers. Macy. And she's walking down with this guy. I couldn't tell if he was her friend or not. But like off the bat, just knowing CW shows, I was like, they're just the way he's talking and just the way they're framing it and like the general vibes. I'm like, they're already forcing this to be like a romance down the line. And I'm like, there's no like mystery. You guys are already like telegraphing like this is gonna be a romantic interest. Like, look at this guy. But Macy sees the house and she's like triggered by it, but she can't say why. And then it cuts to her new job, and she's looking up the house. She sees a picture of the mom. She's like, wait, I think I know something. And then she runs into her new boss, who interrupts her, and he's just kind of there. And it's like, okay, but this feels random, so he must be important. We cut back to Mel. She has a conversation with Harry, the new professor who's taking over for her mom. And this is the one part where I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit on Mel's side from like the character that the character that they're portraying of her, where she's like, I don't think a man should be the head department of women's studies. And I'm like, okay, I can see where that like argument could be made. But overall, she's just like very aggressive and just like not listening to anything this guy has to say. And he's not doing a good job really proving his point. He's like, I was retweeted by this person and they're very popular in women's studies. And it's like, I don't like this conversation either way. Let's get past this. So Mel's hanging up flyers, something to do with, I think, Macy's boss. But this is where the part where I was confused about what the show was saying, and I might have zoned out a little bit. But she's putting up flyers, and some dude comes over, and he's like, that guy isn't that bad, and he got off on some sort of charges that he was being charged for, and Mel's not having his point of the argument, and then he brings up her mom, and she's not having that either, and she punches her in the face, and I don't blame her, because I was like, her mom's dead, like, why would you dig that low, you know what I mean? But it cuts to her talking to the detectives that are, I guess, working her mom's case, and she's like, my mom was murdered, like, you guys gotta, like, look into it, like, things are connected, and the detectives were like, nah, your mom just, like, had an accident, and she died, like, you gotta get over it, and they leave. Maggie comes home to go get some clothes. I guess between those 3 months, she's been hanging out more at the sorority house than her actually home. And then she's just been like, Mel, you've been super angry ever since mom died. And like, you're just snapping at like everybody, which seems to be true. And they just have a fight and it doesn't really go anywhere. Macy shows up and she's like, hey, I think I'm your sister. I have this picture of your mom holding me as a child in front of this house. And then the power goes out. And then they all start talking because, Macy's like, I don't really know what's going on. I just know I have this picture and, I'm just trying to, see what's up. And Mel's like, what, you want money or something? And she's like, no, like, chill out. And then she, like, pushes Maggie away, or she pushes Macy away emotionally. And Maggie's just caught in the middle, like, what the hell? So it goes to Macy. She's talking to her friend / obvious love interest again. And he's already flirting. I'm like, damn, leave something for, the next couple episodes. Like, let's chill out a little bit. And she was saying that her mom or her dad was like, your mom died when you were 2. And I'm like, okay, something's going on here. I wonder why they did that. And then she uses telekinesis and then she throws a beer bottle because the guy makes her mad. And she was like, sorry, I gotta go. And then we go over to Maggie, who's with the sorority. It turns out she is in the final rounds of being chosen, and she starts shaking people's hand, and then she's like reading their mind, and she's like bumping into them, she's reading their mind, and it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, oh, that's interesting if they use it for touch purposes only, like telepathy that way, instead of just like reading people's minds at first. So I kind of like that, like, she probably has to like build up to it. So I was like, okay, this is cool. We then go to Mel, who's still angry, and she's talking to her ex, and she's like, I can't believe like you dumped me after my mom died. But so far, because again, we don't really see the 3 months, right? Just the way that she's acting with everyone, it's like, you probably kept snapping at the girl, and the girl's like, I can't do this. And then as they're talking, like, she freezes time, which obviously of the 3 powers is the best. And she keeps freezing time, and she's like freaking out, and she's like, I gotta go. And so she leaves, she passes out, all 3 of them wake up, and they are tied to chairs. And this is where that Professor Harry's there, and he's like, I gotta give you the lowdown. Now I'm gonna give you the overdraft. I'm gonna give you the summary of basically what he says, because I have some feelings about this general part of the show that really kicks things off, right? So the short version is he's like, you guys are witches chosen to save the world. You need to fight demons and stop the apocalypse. There are three things that lead to the apocalypse. 2 of these things, I think, are already kind of out the way. So the third one's around the corner. You have 48 hours to decide if you guys want to be witches, and you all have to do it unanimously. And so here's the thing. I like that we're not hand holding to where we're like slowly building things, like where it's like, oh, like what's this show about, like let's kind of get to it. But I think they jumped too far. I think this first episode should have been like, hey, you guys have powers, and it is up to you whether you want to keep them or be a regular person. I think. And then I would have added like, oh, by the way, like your whole purpose is to fight demons, and kind of leave it there. Because I think being like, hey, you have powers, you fight demons, stop the apocalypse, it's kind of already in motion and almost done. Yeah, it's like, whoa, okay, like let's slow it down. If anything, I wish they kind of left the save the world apocalypse thing for like the end of the episode. That way it's kind of like, oh, shock value, and then we'll kind of like build off from there after they've already chosen, like, hey, you've chosen to be witches and fight demons, but also like the apocalypse is here, like cut the credits. So I think having it all at once is just like way too much. And the fact that this Harry guy, who is kind of snarky, I guess the word is, and like nonchalant, just kind of says it like, whatever. And I feel like they're not really given time to absorb everything that's really being told. They're more focused on like just the magic part of it. So being like, yo, you gotta do all of this is like, whoa, buddy, slow down. The other thing is the part where he's like, you have 48 hours to decide. Like, you can be a witch by your choice, or like what does he say? He says it's pro-choice of you being a witch or not, or something like that. And it's like, again, with the like too, I don't know if it's wokeness or liberal. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it's like you're force feeding that like too much. Like, just be like, hey, this is your choice. You have 48 hours. You can let it go or whatever. But being like, we are pro-choice of you being a witch, or deciding if you want to be a witch or not. It's like, you're doing too much here. Again, I like that we kind of sped through things enough that it's not too slow, but I think we did it way too fast, and there's just way too much. But also in this conversation, we learned that Harry is a white lighter. He technically died back in the 1950s, so he's a little out of touch with stuff, and if they need him at any time, they just have to say his name and he will appear. And they find out that their mom was a witch, obviously, and the magic she was doing was to unbind their powers, but she got murdered during all of that. And they have this book of shadows, and then it has a bunch of spells and like information in it. Then so this is where they kind of separate, right? They got all her information. Maggie heads to the woods for some sorority thing, which seems weird, but whatever. Macy starts looking up telekinesis because she's the brainy one of the group, and she's more into science. Mel, her ex, shows up to check on her, and while she's talking to her ex, her powers actually start to kick in because they weren't kicking in when Harry was explaining everything. And then she's like, oh, like, she gets really excited, and she like stops being angry for a second, and her ex is like, you seem better, like what's up? And she's just like, I feel like everything makes sense now. And then they kiss, and then they go to have sex upstairs. And this part felt really weird because I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to show that Mel had all this anger because she's like, my mom died, and like no one wants to believe that it was like more than just an accident. And now having these powers kind of leads to her understanding that like this isn't just in her head. Now she has like proof, like, no, there is more to this story. But the way that they show it with her powers going off and her being like, oh my God, I have, like, it came off more of like, oh my God, I have powers, and less of like, everything makes sense now, and now I can figure out my mom's death. So I feel like that should have been written better, because it felt like, oh, I have superpowers now. Yeah, everything's cool. I'll stop being a bitch. Let's go have sex. We cut back to Maggie. She's in the woods. She runs into a dog. It turns out it's a demon dog. And then she somehow gets away, and she's explaining, like, I guess she got saved by some frat dude or some college kids or whatever. I guess they distracted the dog, but that's not very clear. And so they go to check on, like, it's like the next day. They're checking out the sample. Macy has this, like, high-tech like telescope attachment on her phone, and I was like, what is this world? I don't understand the rules here, to where she can just check the molecular levels and molecules of this demon like goo slash blood just from this little thing she has attached to, like, pop socket she has attached to her phone. I was like, I don't, like, we didn't set that up, it's just a thing that she has. Why? But Harry appears and he's like, yo, you guys should have called me, like, we could have handled this. He heals Maggie's small wound. He's like, oh, by the way, I can heal, that's the thing. And apparently, again, this world isn't really fleshed out. Macy is like, yo, we can use baking soda on demons. And I go, huh? And they go, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And then this is where, okay. So Maggie gets mad at Mel in this moment. And she's like, you blame me for mom dying, and I can't let you live that down. And it's a good plot thread, but it feels randomly thrown in there. And I was just like, I was like, what? And so Maggie goes downstairs and she goes outside and she gets kidnapped. And then the person that goes to check on her is Macy and not even Mel, real quick. It's just a small scene, but I was like, that's really weird on why, like, the new sister that's like, hey, your mom never told you about me and I didn't know about you guys, let me go check on our other half sister. It should have been Mel. This is again like this is like a 1 second scene, but I just thought it was weird that they would choose the estranged sister to go check on the younger sister, or as opposed to Mel, because they never set up the fact that, like, she blamed her for the mom dying. So it just, this whole part right here, it's like probably like 2 minutes, but it felt super random. So yeah, it turns out it's a sorority thing. At some point, they had decided that the head sorority girl was probably the demon. At some point, Maggie grabbed her hand and she was like, we need to get rid of Maggie. So they think it's her. So they go to this party. Turns out Maggie has been chosen to be in sorority. They're like, all right, we gotta go save her. They go. Mel gets the sorority girl, throws the baking soda on her, and nothing happens. And the girl's like, what the fuck? And she's like, oh, sorry, I thought you were, like, metaphorically a demon or something like that. And she was like, I was just trying to get you guys a beer, because, like, we're not supposed to have beer in this house ever since that accident, you psycho. And then it cuts back to Maggie. It turns out her ex was there at the party, and he's clearly the demon. And then it turns out he is the demon. He goes to make out with her for some reason, and she kicks him off in, like, almost across the room. And Maggie goes, oh my god, Pilates, inferring that because she did Pilates, she now has, like, super strength. And then this is the part where it quickly cuts, where it would have, if you were watching this on, like, regular TV, it would have cut to commercial. And I was like, yo, y'all really thought you ate with that line. And it made me roll my eyes so bad. I was like, this is clearly a CW show. Like, I can't believe that made it through and you guys didn't, like, write something else. Yeah, so Macy shows up to save the day. She throws baking soda on the ex. The demon flies out of him, and the day is apparently saved because of baking soda. So Mel apologizes to Maggie. She's like, sorry, I blamed you for the mom's death. It feels really random. Again, that it wasn't really in the story, so it just felt kind of inserted. And it's like, yeah, you guys gotta chop this down. Moving on, right? Maggie shows Macy a home video because she's like, oh, I wonder, like, what mom was like. It seems like a nice video, but Macy's like, she left me. Like I felt lonely, and the mom wasn't around for some reason, which is really weird. And I'm glad that they brought it up, because it's like, imagine being a child and then finding out that you have siblings. Not only do you have siblings, but that parent cared more about the other siblings than for you. From your perspective, is like, oh, that's crazy. So that's the one good thing about her character that I'm like, okay, I could see myself being interested on how that hopefully flushes out well. And then at this moment, because they're all just kind of like hanging out, Mel's like, yo, we should all be witches. Like, come on, everybody. And then Maggie's like, this is what she does. She'll try to convince you of anything. And it's like, oh, a sweet moment. So everyone falls asleep except for Macy. And then she has some sort of epiphany. It's the next day, and she's like, listen, I don't think your ex with the demon inside of him was the main demon, because you guys said it was cold, and it always seems to be cold when the demon's here. I think the demon is still out there. She's like, by the way, where's Mel? And Maggie's like, Mel's at a rally. And so Mel's at a rally with, again, there's some sort of super background thing about, consent versus not consent or something. So I think that's what the rally was about. So Mel was obviously on the consent side, and there were other people on the other side. It was really weird and forced. Mel's like, yo, demon's here somewhere. She's walking around. Oh, it's the boss from that one, that 30 seconds of the beginning of the episode. Of course it is, because it was so telegraphed of who else could it possibly be, because there's only so many characters in this episode. So yeah, he turns into this ice monster. Oh, the guy that Mel punched in the beginning comes in. He gets iced down. He seems dead. The other sisters show up. It's time to fight the demon. All right. So the demon throws some ice, and what's her name? Macy stops it with her telekinesis. Mel freezes everything or the demon in place. She's like, yo, we gotta figure this out. Macy's like, yo, I got the spell, I got the book right here, let's get it done. It's not working. Harry shows up because they call him. He heals the dude in the back. He's like, listen, you guys gotta hold hands, use the power of the three sisters, and then you can use the magic spell. And I was like, wait, hold on, you're telling me that they have superpowers, but they can't really use spells to defeat demons unless there's three of them? So I'm like, that is a huge crutch if they don't figure that out. So it's like this show already wrote them into a corner. So it'd be interesting to see if that changes down the line. But anyways, this is their problem in the first episode. So the demon gets free. He turns into ice mist. They can't see. They're choking on whatever, I guess ice. Harry's like, yo, Maggie or Macy, use your power of telekinesis, bring your sisters together. They all hold hands, they do the spell, the demon dies, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then they have this terrible joke at the end of oh, demons usually kind of disappear at the end, I don't know what's happening. Maybe you have to punch him or something, and then maybe boom, and then he explodes, and then he's like, haha, sometimes it just takes a little while. And it's like, okay, whatever. So the dude who got punched in the beginning, who's in the back, who got healed by Harry, gets up, and they're like, oh, he's like, what the hell is going on? And Harry's like, we gotta erase this memory. People can't know about magic being real. And they're like, no, you know what? He should know, because no one's gonna believe him. And because no one's gonna believe him. Because they say some sort of feminist line of men can say anything or whatever, or no one believe. I forget. I should have wrote it down, but it was just a bad line. Again, it was that feminist push. And the thing is, I'm left leaning, so it the certain ideas like that don't bother me. It's more of the execution of it that's kind of ugh, don't force this, make it feel kind of natural. But yeah, that's where the episode kind of ends. We go back to the house. Macy moves in. They find a Ouija board. They try to talk to their mom. They're like, yo, mom, what's good? And mom's like, don't trust Harry. And then Harry, because they say his name, Harry shows up and he's like, yo, what's up? And then the episode ends. So if you're new here, I have a rating system. It has 3 options. So it's one and done, it's give it a chance, and I'm in. For Charmed 2018, I'm gonna have to give it a one and done. For me, it wasn't even the acting, it wasn't even the effects, it wasn't even the weird rules of this world that I don't even know if there are any. For me, it was the writing. It was again, I don't know the word for it, but Mel's entire character of no, you need to consent. I mean, you should consent, but you know what I mean? Her whole thing of I need to be the voice of the people, and it seemed like they're really like, look, she's gay. And, ending, leaving that guy on a feminist line, like, who's gonna believe a man who says anything or something like that. It's the, oh my God, I did Pilates. Like, it's all of that stuff that I'm like, oh my God, you want me to watch this? Because I looked it up and the show went for 4 seasons. I don't know, I didn't see if it was done yet, but there's at least 4 seasons of it. And I'm like, with writing like that, I can't in good conscience spend so much time. Continue to watch this show, but there are good parts of it. Again, the effects aren't bad. There was like 2 shots where I was like, oh, but I mean, 2 shots of like a 40-minute episode is not bad. And then there are a lot of like going back to like, you gotta hold hands to use magic, and then Macy has this high-tech thing, and I'm like, how do you, like, is that, like, how did you get that? Is that, like, a common thing? Is that just because you work at, like, that universe, or, like, that lab or whatever? Like, what's going on here? So I could see the show getting better over time, but I don't have faith enough to see if it does. So I'm gonna have to, again, give this one a one and done. It's close to give it a chance, but I wouldn't. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Again, next week I will be doing Charmed, the original one. I think it's like 1998, but I don't remember. We'll see when we get there. And then if you want, you can follow me at Little Leafers on Twitter. I won't call it the other thing. And I will hopefully get back on schedule and like to drop these episodes every Tuesday. So look forward to it every Tuesday. I'll be dropping these episodes. All right. I appreciate your time. Peace.